And good morning, YouTube. It is Thursday and it is balmy and muggy. A little cool down here, but muggy nonetheless here in Robinson County, North Carolina. Thinking we had some rain over the overnight time frame. Everything outside is just saturated right now. But hey, it's all in God's control. So thankful for it, even though we probably got more than we need right now. But just a reminder about the video response to what I put out yesterday, where your favorite military style or themed or inspired hat. It doesn't, you don't have to be a veteran to participate. Just show me what you got and even throw a little brief history about the hat. That'd be cool. But today I'm going to give you a little limited history lesson, if you will, on jump boots. Like, oh wow, jump boots. What are jump boots? Well, these, my friends, are jump boots. Okay? During World War II, when the airborne forces started coming under development, if you don't know, when the Russians and the Germans, they were the first ones to kind of develop a large-scale airborne force. The U.S. military toyed with the idea at the end of World War I, but the war ended before it could be implemented. Now, of course, the idea in World War I, they were just going to stick a bunch of soldiers on the wings of biplanes and push them off with a parachute on their back. No training. And by the way, it wasn't voluntary. You get on a plane, go. But years later, the idea of an airborne infantry unit would be revived. And the U.S. military would start out with a test platoon, eventually would develop to a battalion, and this became the nucleus for what we know today as our airborne forces. In World War II, you had 3 divisions that would go to Europe, 1 to the Pacific, and several independent battalions and regiments throughout. One division would stay stateside its entire time, because every time they'd get built up, they would get tapped to provide replacements to the other divisions that were already serving overseas. But there was a lot of things that came out of it. Part of it was the design of the jump boot. Now, where'd they get the idea from? Well, the forestry department already had smoke jumpers. Yes, prior to World War II, the forestry department was already had smoke jumpers. And they had a certain type of boot that they wore. And the boot had to do certain things. Case example, in World War II, the average infantry boot was really from about here down. It was just an ankle boot. Paratroopers needed a little more support in that measure. So this was basically the design that was eventually agreed upon and settled on. However, in World War II, the boots were brown and not black. Okay. In 1956, the Army decided that they'd go to black shoes and therefore black boots. It has a cap toe. Now that was more of a, I guess you could say, a style or a way of manufacturing during that time frame. The heel has its own heel cup stitched to the main upper. Okay, it has a full tongue. It goes, when I say full tongue, it comes all the way up to here. That was to, help keep water from getting down in there and that kind of thing. You had a Goodyear welt and sole. Okay. These are kind of worn. These were my last pair of jump boots before I retired. Now this heel plate has a C on it. C representing Cochrane. Cochrane was one of the biggest manufacturers of jump boots in World War II. But they were not the only one. Believe it or not, B.F. Goodrich, automotive company. I think they specialized in tires. Made jump boots. Years later, when jump boots became an optional purchase item for the soldiers. See, because in World War II, paratroopers and those who are on jump status were really supposed to be the only ones to get jump boots. There's an old World War II cartoon. Willie and Joe is the name of the series. And it shows two officers, high-ranking officers, wearing brand new jump boots, walking by, and there's this slouchy, disgruntled, disheveled, dirty paratrooper leaned up against a pole, and the one officer nudges the other, said, "Sir, it's best not to talk to it's best not to talk to paratroopers about saluting. And man, the other one asked him, well, why? He says, they always want to know where you got your jump boots from. And the reason behind that, World War II, supply systems got pilfered, okay? Some people took advantage of that. Some people took advantage of their rank. These were sought after and prized possessions in World War II, but anybody could get them. Why? They were a quality made boot. They were, you didn't have to fuss with leggings that were canvas that soaked up water, that ripped, that tore. The later 1943 boots, they had the buckle cuff at the top, but they were suede. And if anybody knows anything about suede, once they get introduced to water, it's like they become a sponge. All right, and it didn't matter what they put on them; it was never enough to keep those waterproof. So those were finished leather boots. And again, like I said, they were a prized possession. I remember a story my dad told me when he got his first pass during World War II in theater. His jump boots he had on D-Day had got tore up bad. And he wanted a nice pair of boots for going out on the town. He had to go to Supply and get a pair of dead man's boots because there was no new boots available in the system. And the ones they were issuing were the 1943 boots, and most paratroopers didn't want them because you couldn't shine them. You could, but it took a copious amount of work to do. You had to shave them, then you had to apply waxes and inks and dyes just to get them somewhat shinable. But he was able to get a pair of dead man's boots. Why? Because jump boots look better than the other shoes. Now, in some theaters, soldiers took to taking their boots to local cobblers and having an upper portion added on to the standard service shoe. And again, it goes to not only just because of the appearance, the support, but easier to maintain, take care of, and a whole lot easier to put on and take off than the ones with the, if you had to wear leggings. So that's kind of where all that stemmed from. Well, into World War II, the Army finally smartened up, said, hey, people like jump boots, we're going to make a combat boot. So they came up with a combat boot in 1947, 48, and it was a service combat russet. It was a full-length boot, full lace boot, had a cap toe, very similar to jump boots. The quality of the leather wasn't quite as fine as what Cochrane had been using, but it was still a good boot. But then the Korean War came along, and there wasn't enough in the inventory for every soldier to get issued, so they had to go back to the old 1943 boots, which they had in abundance. If you know anything about military operations, we have a bad habit of stockpiling things, and instead of getting rid of it at the end of the war, we hold on to it. And for good measure, you never know. Like case, an example, the Korean War. We had to mobilize a great number of troops fast and quick, and you had to give them something to wear. So, thus hence, maintaining those old supplies. Problem was, a lot of them weren't stored properly, and the boots had suffered from dry rot, that kind of thing. But at this point in time, soldiers could purchase jump boots from Cochrane as an optional purchase authorized footgear, and many did. My dad told me when he came back on active duty in 1950 after being out for 5 years, that was the first thing he did was when I read an Army Times and saw an advertisement and sent a money order to Cochrane Shoe Company and ordered himself a brand new pair of jump boots. He knew that they were superior to what the Army had issued. And for years, that would be the running thing in the Army. In garrison was, you had your combat boots that you were issued. I was issued 2 pair in basic training. I had 2 pair of the old 1970s, early 80s boots that had a chevron tread sole, real smooth leather, easy to polish. Then they came out with the speed lace boots that had a grainier leather, hard to polish, next to impossible to polish. Well, when you're standing in formation, you want to look good. You want your boots to shine. Well, as you can see, this is a very smoothly finished and refined leather. Quit chewing back here. Rebel dog chewing on the carpet. As you can see, I still maintain them fairly well. They couldn't hurt if I put another coat of polish on them in the near future. But this just sitting in the closet underneath the blanket, just wiped off the dust. Is basically all they're really done. But they were easy to polish, shine, and maintain. Okay. So there you have it, folks. The history of the jump boot is the old soldier knows it. And again, you'll see pictures of soldiers wearing them throughout the years because, like I said, it was a far superior made boot. Now, some people would tell you, well, no, they hurt your ankles, this, that kind of thing. I've got a pair of brown ones I wear all the time, and they don't bother me a bit. So, whatever. But and nowadays, with modern insoles, you can make boots just about as comfortable as a tennis shoe to some extent. But those right there, like I said, were my last pair. I probably went through about 4 pair in my entire Army career. My first tour, I used to wear mine all the time. And then when I came back on active duty in '94, I bought a pair. And because I was an airborne unit, we were always wearing them for all kinds of functions. I finally wore them out. Now, to tell the truth, when I went to jump school, that's the first thing he told you, you don't wear no jump boots to jump school. And there's a whole lot of reasons why, but they say eventually it was based on safety because of the sole pattern on them now. Those soles get a little slick in aircraft, and modern aircraft, you don't want to be sliding out of it when you go out the door. You want a good rubber sole that's going to make contact and grip with the floor of the aircraft. That's kind of how they explain why they didn't want you wearing jump boots in jump school. And one rumor is because you hadn't earned the right to wear them yet. I heard that one too. So there you have it. Now, in the U.S. Army, there are certain units that are authorized to still wear that with their dress uniform. Okay, and that would be any unit that's on jump status or an airborne designated unit, and the 101st Airborne, which is technically Air Assault Division. They're allowed to wear jump boots with their Class A uniforms as well. Okay, so if you see a soldier in dress uniform and they're wearing boots with their pants bloused over the top of them, chances are they are a paratrooper or in some type of special operations or air assault type unit. Just so you know. Now with the Army changing to its new uniform, the pinks and green, going back to pinks and greens, I don't know if they're going to continue to use black boots. See, because the new uniform's requiring brown low quarters. So I don't know if they're going to transition the jump boots back to brown. I don't think Sergeant Major of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army fully thought this through when they decided to make this just wonderful decision. Not to mention the cost it's going to incur on the lower enlisted. That's another story for another time. Which Cochrane makes a reproduction brown jump boot, and they're good. That's the pair you saw me wearing in a couple of other videos. I enjoy wearing them. They're comfortable. I used to wear them to work all the time. And when I was going to school, wore them a lot of times to go to school. Just for the fact I need ankle support. So there you have it. Just want to share that with you this morning. Hope you got something out of it. Just remember the charities I always ask you to look out for: Valor for Veterans, Pin Up for Vets, and tunnelstotowers.org. If you can, give them something to help them out. They could really use it. They can't do it just on kindness of heart alone. Vendors: Money Quick Pawn, Rayford Road, right beside the Tractor Supply here in Fayetteville, North Carolina area. Robert's Custom Woodworking. Order a plaque from him today. And go see the Unsung Patriot, get one of his t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies. And by the way, if you can help me out, go down to my Amazon link and order 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10 of my books. Anything will help. Really appreciate it if you do that for me. With that being said, we're going to close today. Just remember our men and women in uniform this very hour that stand between us and those that do us harm. Remember their families as well. Remember our law enforcement, our first responders. They stand ready to respond on a moment's notice and never know what they're getting into when they get there. So remember them as well. And with that, folks, God bless you. If you don't know Jesus as your Savior, I encourage you to seek Him out and accept Him as such. If you don't know how to do that, email me at ransomandoldsoldier@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to share my testimony with you. God bless. Take care. Until tomorrow, this old soldier out.